Hello there! In this lesson, we're going to learn how to design this 3D SketchUp logo using just the basic SketchUp tools. Before we start though, click the File folder and click Save As. This will save your model so you don't lose any work. Name it whatever you'd like, and then click OK. Once you do that, you'll have to select a folder in Google Drive. Make sure you remember where you saved your model. Now to start our drawing, we're going to use the rectangle tool to create a square on the ground. So click it here in the left side toolbar, click and release once, and then click and release again to make a square. We don't really care about the size, but just eyeball it and get a square just about the size that you see here. Let's take a look around and you'll see that we have a flat square sitting on the ground just to the right of Temple. Next is the really fun part. We're going to turn this into 3D. So on the left side toolbar, look for the push-pull tool and click it. Once you do that, move your mouse pointer over to the square that you just created, click and release once, move your mouse pointer up, and click again. Congratulations, you've just made your first 3D model. How cool is that? Let's take a look around and see all 6 sides of our square that we just created. Now, one of the most important parts of 3D modeling is looking around as you model. As you can see I'm doing here, I'm orbiting and spinning the square. Now to do that in SketchUp, we use tools like this. If we click down here, we can click on the Orbit tool at the top. And once the Orbit tool is selected, if we click and drag, you can spin and rotate your cube in just about any direction you'd like. The next tool that we can use is called the Pan tool. That's a little hand icon. If you click on that and you click and drag, you can slide your model anywhere on the screen that you like it. The next tool that we can use is the Zoom tool, which looks like the little magnifying glass. And if we click and drag using the Zoom tool, we drag up and down, you can zoom in and out on your model. There's a Zoom Box tool, and this lets you click and drag and draw a box so that you can zoom anything that's inside that box. Now, at some point when you're modeling, you're going to get so far zoomed in that you're not going to know where you are, and no amount of orbiting or panning is going to get you unstuck. Thankfully, SketchUp has a tool that'll get you unstuck, and that is the Zoom Extents button at the bottom. And if you click that, it'll zoom you all the way back out to the extent of your entire model. So never will you be stuck inside your model again. So now let's get back to modeling. So next, we're going to take the rectangle tool and start drawing the steps of the 3D step box. And so click on the corner of the cube and click again to make your first step. And then repeat the same thing, but do it a little farther out. And you can see here with these 2 squares that we've made, we've created the steps for the step box. Next, we're going to use the push-pull tool, and we're going to push down the steps of the step box. Click and release on each face, and click it again when it gets down as low as you want it. Again, we're just eyeballing it here, so just do what I did here and get it close enough. You can use your Orbit tool to look around and check out the work that you've done. Looks pretty great. Now for a bonus, if you want to add a splash of color to your step box, click on the Paint Bucket tool on the left side and you'll see the color selector slide in from the right. Grab that nice red color and click on each face that you'd like to turn red. You can use your Orbit tool to spin around the back so that you can paint the back sides and the bottom of your step box. So just click each face and add color to it. It's as easy as that. And congratulations, you have designed and created your first 3D model, the 3D SketchUp step box. Excellent work. Now the last thing we need to do is shrink the step box down so it'll fit on the 3D printer. Things in SketchUp are drawn to full scale, so as you can see, our step box is nearly as tall as Temple, and it certainly won't fit on a 3D printer. Good news is that shrinking it down is pretty easy. First thing we need to do is look on the left side toolbar for the arrow tool, or as we call it, the select tool. Once you have that clicked, click and drag a box starting from the top left to the bottom right around only your step box. Be careful that you don't get Temple inside your box as well. If you've done this right, you'll see a light blue pattern on all of the parts that make up your step box. After you see that, right or secondary click anywhere on your step box and select Make Group. Once you do that, you'll see that your step box now has a blue bounding box around it, indicating that it is a group. Before we shrink our model down, we need to check to make sure that it is a solid, or in other words, that it is a watertight model, which is an important prerequisite for any model that you want to 3D print. To do this, click the Entity Info button on the right side toolbar. A panel will slide out, and in that panel, with your step box selected, if you see solid group and a volume calculation, that means that you have a solid, or in other words, a watertight model that is ready to be 3D printed. As I mentioned earlier, we need to shrink the size of this step box down. We can't print something that's nearly as big as Temple. To do that, go to the left side toolbar and find the Scale tool. Click it and click on your step box. When you do that, all of these little green grips will pop up around your box. Find one that's in one of the corners and click and drag it, and this will allow you to shrink your step box down. You may need to do this a couple times because your step box is going to get too small, and you may have to zoom in and shrink it a little more. But once you shrink it, you want it to be a little bit smaller than Temple's foot, because an average foot is about the size of a 3D printer bed. So if you get it smaller than Temple's foot, you know that it'll fit. The last step is that we need to prepare this step box for export. And one of the first things that we need to do is we actually need to erase Temple. So on the left side toolbar, find the Erase tool, click it, and then click on Temple. Once Temple has been erased, go to the File folder, select Export, and select STL. An STL file is the file that your 3D printer understands. Save it out, and then you can load it into your 3D printer and print out your step box. And just like that, you've designed and printed out your very first SketchUp model. Congratulations!